Come on, reset this clock. Now, I don't want to be the guy that make sure you don't get coffee, but where is the next presentation? Yeah, I have it. Where's the button to start? I have your problem. Yeah, no, it's, is it?
It's not coming yet. Let's go there and the full screen maybe, which should be
full screen mode. Yes, okay. Hey, again, this is me. This is where I get, I hope by now you like me, but this is where I get vicious. Because this is where I want to point out where you guys, and I'm really, and I'm involved in this as well, are littering the ocean, right? You're throwing plastic into the sea. You shouldn't be doing this. Again, a lot of people are hopefully with me, but I do speak in my own voice today. But this is mainly work that has come out of the projects of Ferries and Blue Cloud, where we are trying to think about interoperability. And that's the main thing, interoperability and sustainability, I want to focus on. Key observations starting on ferries. Ferries coming after every fair, EOS Clive, etc. You all know the projects, right? So we start on this, and we really have this feeling of, didn't we do this before? Why are we at it again? Why wasn't this solved before, right? Because as we remix the, well, because it's now a new partnership, there's new people to interact with, we have to redefine what harmonization is. And so there's two ways. This is what the glass of water is doing. Is it half full or is it half open? Half empty, right? You can have the optimistic view, say, oh, this is normal, Marc. This, as we grow our community, we're gradually stepping up. But is there a plan? Is there a guarantee that we're stepping up? Because I can equally be pessimistic and looking in the rear view and seeing a wasteland of previous projects, right? And then I'm pessimistic. And whether you're optimistic or pessimistic, the real question is, whatever we are doing, is it sustainable? Aren't we wasting money, right? So people will say my data is interoperable. And I find that very dangerous language. Because if you look at that sentence linguistically, it gives you the impression that being interoperable is a Boolean. It's true or false. It's either yes or no. Right? And smart people will say, no, Marc, we're now doing fair metrics, and it's a percentage. It's between 0 and 100% interoperable. And I still don't buy it, because interoperability is actually measured at the consumption side. And we measure it in euros. We measure it in wasted time and wasted money of people failing to work with the data you have been publishing, right? And this is really what interoperability is about. And considering it, and I've been doing this myself, I was also, no, it's interoperable. No, you have to ask the end user if it's interoperable. It's their appreciation of your data that actually says it's interoperable. So I do have a bit of fair criticism. And people will then say, but yeah, we're checking all the boxes. We're doing everything that people are requesting us. And I'm saying, I'm questioning, should we not be doing less? And what do I mean? Well, this is an important quote, actually from the same research group I mentioned before. And I'll read it again out loud, because it's really something that, well, changed my mind at least. While the sum of many individual knowledge graphs, the thing I'm advocating for, is a bigger knowledge graph, right? This is using the semantic web. Instead, we're doing web APIs. However, the sum of many individual APIs is not a bigger API, but rather a mess of interactions in which neither the server nor the client can improve the situation within the traditional framework of thinking about APIs. Which means we do not need more APIs, right? We don't need them. And the main reason behind this, and I had this little chit chat with Christian earlier, he had one very single line on his slide saying, oh, this API isn't really RESTy, and he was mentioning OGC. And what he meant, and I verified, so it's actually true, what he meant, it's built by somebody who didn't read the REST paper, right? In 2000, REST was introduced in a PhD paper, and I can by personal feeling, attest that 99% of the web service APIs that declare themselves as being RESTful have been created by somebody that does not know and surely does not have read this paper, right? So I really encourage everybody to claim REST to be able to address the question, what is the meaning of this one little sentence, hypermedia as the engine of the application state? If you don't know what it is, I'm afraid you don't know what a REST API is. And that's a problem, right? Because it's exactly what is creating the web data space in a well-knitted fabric. And if you're not doing that, you're littering the digital ocean. This is a visual representation of what we are doing, right? We have been creating web pages, and there is a whole field where web pages are interconnected, and this is creating what I would call the web of pages. On top of that, and it's not in it, it's on top of it, we're creating a number of APIs that are simply not interoperable, that are not even designed to be interoperable. All OGC are interoperable with OGC clients, but not with any other API. And we don't need to do that because the web shows that it can be done. So the big question is, and what I mean here with JSON broke the, broke the web, if you compare JSON with HTML, in an HTML response, you will have a link to another page. If you have a JSON response, you don't have a link to another page. At best, you have an identifier. It was on Alexandra's slide. She was saying there is a difference between machine readable and machine actionable, and the difference is you need a developer in between. I typically call it, when we say machine to machine, we actually imply machine to developer. We expect on the other end a developer, somebody who can read the OGC specification to actually build a client, and this is not the web way of doing, right? So working with the web is, getting into the web is really embracing this way of working. I have a small example to try and introduce what I think we should be going at, because in my title there was a hint to the solution being about fragments, right? So this is, if you actually do this query on the web today, who is the actress playing the wife of Stephen Hawking? You put this in Google, Google will give you the answer, right? Only one answer, that's a little bit bad, but it will give you the answer. And you can look at how this question would live in a science environment, right? This is showing this question as a Sparkle query. And what we typically do, you have that orange dotted line, which is the difference with the separation between the client and the server. And the server has to be pre-built. That's our problem. We have to extract, transform, and load all that data into a central database, and then we can execute that query and find a match. And actually, there's two answers to the question, because the man was married twice, right? That's the bad thing about Google. Google only gives you one answer, but there is in fact two, right? But in the end, we've loaded all those megabytes just to answer one question. And if I come up with a more difficult question, I have to build a different backend. So this doesn't scale well. The way we should be approaching this is a natural way of finding this data. We should be able to ask this question to a client that knows which parts of data it should fetch from the web, bring it together in a just-in-time local database, and execute the query over there. That is the essence of federated query. I don't know if many people have heard the term federated query. This is the goal. Nobody is doing it, but this is what we're trying to do. Good. So in the end, we're trying to find a system that can navigate and route to help us find the fragments, only those portions of the data we really need. And this is the fragmentation ID, right? So we need linked data publication, not only of the details, but also of the fragments, the groups. So if you think about subsetting services like OGC, like Beacon, like whatever is out there, what they're not doing, they're not exposing what is actually in this metadata content. And there's not, what is in this content, we are responding at this URI, right? Good. Another ID that comes with this, I have the warning there, is what I would call fragment negotiation. The idea is that your client, we're now building servers that are expected to answer every very specific question of every client. But this is not scaling as well. We know how to do this. If you use Google Maps, you're actually getting more than you need. Why? Well, the tiles making up your image are bigger than your screen. So there's always portion that is falling off, but that's not a problem. So instead of having services that give exact answers. We should start having servers that say, well, your answer is somewhere in here, and you have to filter it as a client a little bit more further, right? So this is what I call fragment negotiation. I think it's based on having predefined sets and subsets on the server side and making sure you have those ready in a cacheable way. And in side fairies, we're adding a layer on top of that. We call it the universal data access layer. And the big idea there is that we don't only want to build a catalog of data on offer, but also actually build a catalog of data in demand and allow for the technical system to do the interoperable negotiation between what needs to be provided. I hope I'm in time because I'm going to skip this. Really useful, but I have to go into recap and allow you to answer questions. Yes.
Okay.
And I do want to excuse myself for the rant mode because I'm really enthusiastic about this. Yeah.
Maybe just a short note. I wouldn't argue JSON killed it, more like Swagger killed it, because there was JSON hyperschema which would have enabled exactly what we wanted. So
yes.
there was a possibility there, but nobody used it.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. And then comes Swagger, and we defined just paths, and this is how the data is structured, and so on, so on.
But I would say you can add context and make a JSON LD, right? Yeah. That was technical jokes between engineers.
Yeah, on just one argument on the thing that you mentioned, the APIs are not sharing the meaning. That's not the API, that's the implementations are not sharing this.
I don't agree. I don't agree.
Yeah, okay.
No, and I'm not taking your mic, you can keep it. Why I don't agree is that whenever actually all these web services are doing the same. So we're really close to what I want, right? And that's what's so frustrating about this job the last 4 years. It's balancing between hope and despair because it's really achievable. Why don't we have these web service APIs? Use something like fair signposting. So you can expose at an address any response you have, but still expose also a link to something that describes it. 1. 2, you could do fragmentation. You could say this is how you need it. You actually already do that with your tile services, right, in OGC? You already mentioned these are the tiles you can get and they are covering these areas. You could do the same with everything you do. And I'm not saying all these APIs have to be killed. I'm saying we should eagerly discuss how we can have these APIs expose on a web level, how they can be interoperable, because they're all doing the same. Give me that data at that URL. But yeah, now your follow-up question.
No, I agree that to the point that they are meant to be generic. They are not meant to provide is in the specifications what's in the domain, definitely. But on the federated search and federated query answering, I think that one of the challenges is actually how you can merge the data, covering many aspects and potentially ambiguous, or maybe potentially in a conflict, because inferring can bring these things. And I guess I wonder what's the answer for this one.
The person before me was very honest when he said, I don't know, we'll have to see. But it actually ties back to my first talk. You remember the quote on RDF? Doing RDF is not complex. The problems are complex. And I'm totally confident that we can solve those issues, but we're not even getting there, because we are not making our data interoperable in a way that we can come to those conflicts. We're eagerly making sure we're not coming into conflicts because we control everything, so we never come into solving that problem. I'm actually eager and hoping for a world where we can actually identify that problem and actually tackle it, which we are far from. So I'd like to challenge myself on this one, but and invite everybody else to do it, because that's where we're heading to. And I totally agree. There are issues to come around, but by not doing RDF and not doing those are not going away. it's still a complex problem. Yeah. I
Coffee.
start to feel I'm coffee. Yeah, there you go.